Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Mount Rushmore, the history you never knew you needed. I'm Jeff Hickcox, and across from me, our self-proclaimed presidential historian, Stan Nawalaniec.
Hey, everybody. How are you? How are you, Jeff?
I'm good, Stan. How you doing?
Doing good. What are we talking about?
That would be your job. That would be you.
We're going to talk about a subject that we have discussed in various forms in the past, and we're talking about one of our founding fathers, James Madison. We featured him in our 4th of July special last year.
And his wife in an earlier episode.
Correct. Dolly Madison, our first lady.
Correct.
She was the original hostess. Even before James Madison became president, she helped out Thomas Jefferson.
Right. I was going to say she helped Mr. Jefferson.
And
President Jefferson.
Yes, lasted a really long time. She helped a lot of presidents.
She did, really.
I think all the way to Zachary Taylor's wife.
Yeah.
Crazy. But today, we're going to, and you and I were discussing this a couple of weeks ago. I ran across, I love presidential history, love it.
That's why we do this show.
Most of the time, it's right off the top of my head because I know it. For some reason, when I was young, it just soaked in.
Yeah.
But this, I found out, here's the big question mark, did James Madison, our founding father, write the Constitution? That's what we're told.
That's going to be our show today.
He's the father of the Constitution.
Is he?
I don't know now. I really don't know now.
Me neither.
Let's just quickly review because you can learn all this in other podcasts. And at this point, we've done so many podcasts now, I don't think it matters where you start.
No.
Just pick it up
We
and
have
start
quite
listening.
a few of them. You can just bounce around, but the 4th of July one with the presidents is really a good one.
Because you'll be surprised how many of our founding fathers passed away on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And James Madison could have been one of them. His doctor asked him,
Yep.
"You want to live to the 4th?" He said, "Nah."
He chose not to.
I don't want to linger any more than I have to. But he was our 4th president, founding father. We told you Dolly Madison. We'll get into her in a little bit because this episode also involves her.
It does.
In a not very good light.
No. And there's some other things about her, too, that are in that last episode.
Yes, that are questionable, but you have to look at the time that she lived.
You're right.
But as we said, he's known as the father of the Constitution. Passed at the Federal Convention in 1787.
Yeah.
Was held in Philadelphia from May until September. 55 delegates from 12 states. There was a holdout who was not there. They wanted to revise the Articles of Confederation. But they instead drafted a new secret U.S. Constitution establishing a stronger federal government and 3 branches of federal government.
Yes.
This was led by George Washington, driven by James Madison. Oh, James Madison did that. Oh, he's one of our greats. Hold on.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. It is said James Madison took meticulous notes at the Constitutional Convention of 1787.
Also, there was no real official note-taking
Nope.
of the event.
He just sat there up close, way up front,
Right, front row.
and wrote down every single word from everyone. The final document was signed on September 17th, 1787, and subsequently ratified, creating the government framework of the United States of America.
That we have to this very minute.
And when you sit in history class or civics class, or do they even have that anymore?
They do in Florida.
You will be told that the creator of the Constitution was James Madison.
Yes.
His place in U.S. history was intact.
Yeah, it was set.
Of course, he went on to become the 4th president of the United States, lead us through the War of 1812. Everybody says the War of 1812. It was longer than that. It was 2.5 years long. Conflict between the United States and Great Britain, along with their respective allies and American Indians.
Yes.
It
Where
ended,
we got Tecumseh's curse.
correct. Yes. And that wasn't in 1812. It was like 1814.
It was. You're right.
But it ended in a relative stalemate, but it fundamentally shaped the identity of both the United States and Canada, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, Great Britain just said, it's not worth it.
Right.
You guys don't give up the fight. You just keep fighting. Just go ahead. This is the second time we tried this, and we're not getting anywhere. When James Madison left office in 1817, he was 65 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and he retired to his plantation, Mount Pelier, in Orange County, Virginia, and he retired to that plantation, and I believe we've told you this before as well, flat, busted, broke.
Dead broke.
As we've told you in the past, he had adopted a son from Dolly Madison's first marriage.
Mm-hmm.
His name was John Payne Todd. He was an alcoholic. He was repeatedly thrown in jail for shooting incidents.
Yeah.
He ran up huge debts, gambling. He loved the gamble.
Yeah. He was covered in another episode we did on
Yep.
embarrassing family members.
Yes.
We got Madison all over this show.
I mean, is there any reason he was flat busted broke?
Yeah.
Bailing people out. Madison always bailed out his stepson,
Mm-hmm.
and he was dead busted broke at the age of 65, a retired founding father.
Yeah.
Now he's at Mount Pelier trying to figure out his finances. He's got Dolly Madison. Trust me, she liked to spend too. And he's got a troubled stepson and a lot of time on his hands. As he's sitting there growing older, he begins to doubt his place in history. How many of us have sat and looked back at our lives and said, could I have done something differently?
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing I can do about it now.
Right.
He didn't think that.
Nope.
He said, I'm going to change it now.
Yeah.
Which leads to a whole bunch of problems. This first interested me because I thought, and I did read some stuff, and it perked my interest, that he may have been mentally ill in his later life.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was paranoid.
Big time paranoid.
Which could be considered a mental illness, but not to where you were probably originally thinking.
He was, as you said, paranoid. He also was so concerned about his legacy that he did some questionable things. Now, older historians will admit he may have suffered from hysteria. He may have suffered from nervousness.
Okay.
Which is all part of being paranoid.
Yeah.
Modern medical experts believe Madison likely suffered from a mild case of epilepsy, mild form of epilepsy, or a psychogenetic non-epileptic seizure. That brought on by extreme stress. He had such stress in his life, he would have these seizures, or as he called them, his sudden attacks.
Oh.
What would happen during these sudden attacks?
What would happen?
He would briefly suspend his intellectual functions.
Okay.
And it left him incapacitated for short periods of time.
Really?
So he, you know what? It almost sounds like either an epileptic fit or a nervous breakdown.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people
where
have
they just
epileptic
shut
seizures,
down.
and they do shut down afterwards. It short circuits them.
He's suffering from some kind of malady.
Yeah, some brain malady.
Yeah. He spends his final years, listen to what I'm telling you, he spends his final years meticulously changing those written notes he took at the Federal Convention of 1787.
Right, so he's going through all these notes and deciding what's important.
Keep in mind what we both told you guys. Yeah. He took meticulous notes, word for word, in the front row, not missing a beat.
He didn't miss anything.
Now, decades later, and he's old and mentally a little unstable.
Yeah.
He wants to clarify the record and starts scribbling around with his notes.
He's concerned about how he's going to be seen after death.
He said in some of his other notes, he was merely correcting the record.
Mm-hmm.
No, he wasn't.
No, he was changing the record.
Recent historical analysis, most notably by Professor Mary Sarah Bilder, in her book, and it's a great book, Madison's Hand. She suggests that Madison significantly revised his original meticulous notes decades and decades after the Constitution was written.
Yeah.
I'm changing them.
Right.
This prompted further research by historians.
Mm-hmm.
Researchers found that Madison replaced entire sheets of his original 1787 diary. Entire sheets.
Entire pages.
Yep. He altered his own speeches to make himself appear more consistent, less frustrated, and there's even more. There is evidence that he added passages to make it seem as though he had more forcefully condemned the slave trade during the convention than he actually did at the time.
Yeah. So he's changing how he appeared.
You better believe it. And tearing out pages of the notes.
And here's the thing. He outlived all the other founding fathers. Did. So who's going to argue with him?
No. To the victor goes the spoils.
Right. There's no witnesses.
It is obvious to experts that Madison wanted to ensure that history remembered him and the Constitution, and this is how they word it, exactly as he wanted it.
Right.
So who were the other writers of the Constitution along with Madison? And what was taken out of the Constitution, meaning taken out of his notes, and when the Constitution was being written, left out?
And, I just got to add in, there were some really strong writers in that group of people.
Yes, there were, and I'm going to point them out to you. There were primarily two other writers of the Constitution. Here is, and again, I urge you to read her book, Madison's Hand. Here is Professor Mary Sarah Bilder telling us who else wrote the Constitution, and Madison decided to scribble them out.
Okay.
So I think there's a sort of a good person and I suppose a person complicated. The complicated person would be Charles Pinckney, who's a huge slaveholder, determined that slavery would be just completely embedded in the Constitution. His cousin, General Pinckney, only speaks to ensure that slavery lives forever. And Madison eventually scored those sections out, blacked them out so completely that you can't read them. If I ever get a second chance with the Library of Congress, they have equipment that could read those. But Pinckney was given a much smaller role than he had. The person who was also given a smaller role that I think is more unfortunate is Governor Morris of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. But he spoke passionately against slavery. He's the person who probably spoke the most passionately against slavery, and he actually, in some ways, predicts the Civil War. He says that this division between North and South, that is a fundamental problem. And Madison writes that speech down, but doesn't give Morris a lot of credit along the way.
No credit along the way. So is the Constitution in Madison's hand? Mm-hmm. Madison later in life acknowledged that Governor Morris of Pennsylvania probably fixed the Constitution up so beautifully from the mess that Madison had written that is pretty much how we see it today. Not necessarily Madison's version of it, but Morris's version of it.
So Madison kind of wrote the framework, and then Morris kind of prettied it up.
Well, here's Builder again explaining that.
Okay.
And yeah, you're pretty accurate on that. It prettied it up a little bit.
Okay, let's see.
Madison eventually says that the person who really wrote the final Constitution was Morris. The last draft of the Constitution looks the way we understand the Constitution, with 7 major articles. But the draft before that had 22 articles. So the Constitution didn't look anything like how we understand it. And Madison, late in his life, says it was Morris who basically took all these disparate sections and regrouped them into the way we understand the Constitution.
I did not know that.
Nope. Wow.
That is just one piece of what he got his hands on.
Right.
When he was elderly, he not only wanted to scribble his notes and give himself more credit, make him look better, make his stance on slavery better.
Yeah.
Immediately he says how Morris was the guy that framed it up as you read it today.
Yeah.
He got his hands on a lot of other stuff.
He did.
A lot of his notes that he and Jefferson corresponded a lot.
They had huge amounts of correspondence.
In correspondence with Thomas Jefferson, he would change things around in later years. What I mean is Madison used handwritten insertions above crossed out words. He would say, I don't like that word I wrote to him. I don't like that phrase. Let me cross it out and in my own hand write something else in there.
Like he had done it live.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you take medical notes, if you're like work in the medical profession, doctors and nurses know this.
Yeah.
If you write a mistake, like Jeff is foaming at the mouth.
Okay.
Well, he really wasn't foaming at the mouth. Apparently, I caught him when he was coughing up soda.
Okay.
I would say I would have to leave foaming at the mouth in there. Would have to line it so that you could see what was under there, and then in my hand put what I correctly saw. So that when you went to court, I initially thought you were foaming at the mouth, but apparently you were drinking a tab.
Fresca.
Right. But that's what Madison was doing to their letters.
Gotcha.
And he claimed, I'm just doing it for clarification. This is decades and decades later when he's bored and a little unstable in his home.
And concerned about his legacy.
One example that I want to point out is in a 1787 letter from Madison to Thomas Jefferson. Madison made several deletions and substitutions in that letter that is part of U.S. history.
Jeez.
Yeah, well, I'm doing it for clarity. But that's not what you wrote.
Right.
With all of that in mind, set the record straight on this. He does a lot of great things. He wants to go and fix his legacy, and he starts tampering around with his notes and letters and all of that stuff.
Yeah. The founding fathers were great men. They were flawed men.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted to take out the flaws later in life, I think.
Correct. When he was probably not in the right frame of mind to do it.
No, he was not.
But what about Dolly Madison?
Mm-hmm.
What about that little sweetheart?
Mm-hmm.
As we told you in the episode we did on her, and by the way, the date on that, July 21st of last year, just to look at the archives for our show.
Oh, that's when it came out?
And you can hear the Dolly Madison episode July 21st of last year. As we told you in that episode, and as was fact, she was, after her husband died, she was dead broke. Her son, Madison's stepson, drove them to bankruptcy. They actually had to give up Montpelier for a period of time because she was broke. She wanted to go and sell James Madison's papers. She wound up selling them a couple of times to get some quick cash.
A couple of times?
Yeah. She initially sold a chunk of them.
I got you.
And then she sold a whole bunch of them, I think all of them, to the United States Congressional Library.
Right, yeah. Library of Congress.
Thank you. Library of Congress. Recent historical research suggests she, in the attempt to sell her husband's papers, may have played a role in rewriting or editing those papers after her husband died.
So after he changed them, she changed them more. What is with these Madisons?
Evidence suggests that during the preparation for their 1840 publication, Dolly potentially, with the help of her son, gambling alcoholic addict John Payne Todd, made changes to the manuscript to make it, quote, more marketable. And again, trying to preserve James Madison's legacy.
Yeah.
Experts, and I mean looking under microscopes, have detected her handwriting on those manuscripts.
Oh, my goodness. And on the notes that were taken in the Constitutional Congress?
Yep.
Wow.
That she's going to release them. Doesn't like the way it looks. It's not attention-grabbing enough. Let's sit down and fix a few of these things with her own hand.
It's like
I'm sorry. That's wrong.
Yeah, it's like adapting a novel to a movie.
Yep.
And rewriting it so it looks better.
Now, keep in mind what we're saying. While James Madison did a vast majority of the spinning of his own papers during his life, it was Dolly who was the final editor who helped shape the version the world would eventually read in 1840.
Jeez. I mean, there's the truth, then there's his version of the truth and her version of the truth.
So they've been messed with, original, messed with, and then messed with again.
So have these people under the microscope, have they discovered the actual real truth then at all? Or is that just gone?
I think, from what I've read, the whole structure of what he wrote and what went into the Constitution has pretty much remained the way that he originally thought it.
Okay.
It was the perception by both he and his wife, because he was a slaveholder. She sold her main slave for money.
Right.
When she wanted to go and do high society in Washington, D.C., and she was flat busted broke, she took a loyal slave of hers and sold him, leaving his family behind.
Yeah.
It's all about helping the image.
Right. They don't want that coming out.
And yeah, you got to realize what life was like then. You cannot put today's society on what was going on in the 1700s and 1800s.
No, of course not.
Because telling her story, telling Madison's story, can be shaky and startling at best.
Triggering, as they say.
Yeah. Keep that all in mind. We've got the greatest Constitution the world has ever known. Now, whether he had his single hand in it, whether there were others that wrote it, whether they tampered with it, crossed it, it's still the greatest thing the world has ever known.
Right. No matter what the notes say, we still have the original Constitution that was ratified.
Correct. James Madison was heart failure that got James Madison when he passed away. Now, according to notes, here's James Madison in a nutshell when he passed away. Everybody knew he was terminal. Doctor wanted to push him along to the 4th of July.
Right, they wanted to hold him to the 4th of July, right.
But he didn't want to, and he had trouble breathing. He had trouble swallowing. He had trouble talking. He would have good days. He'd have bad days. According to notes, on the morning of his death, his niece was there and noticed he was struggling. And the niece said, "What's the matter, Uncle James?" Madison replied with a final bit of wit, saying to the young girl, "Nothing more than a change of mind, my dear." And then he died.
It's hard to, these are such great men, and it's hard to pick apart their stories, but some of it just needs to be brought out and told.
Yeah, I mean, be honest.
Right,
We've
exactly.
got the greatest documents in the world.
Yeah.
We had some of the most unbelievable people. Thank God we had these founding fathers. Just be honest. They're human.
Yeah. It makes you wonder what else was changed back then, though.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
But, the thing about that is, and it's true, it's like, when a battle is fought and won, the story or the history of that battle is told by the victors, not
That's
the
right.
losers, right?
That's right.
So he was the last person alive.
And the losers had stories, but he was the last. Think about that. He was the last founding father. He was the one that got to put the final stamp on it. And then Dolly
and changed it again. But I would say in the 1800s, 85 is a very long life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of those founding fathers lived a long time. Washington could have lived longer, too, if they didn't bleed him.
Right. I know.
Speaking of that.
Let's talk about the next episode.
Our next episode, 2 weeks.
Yes.
Who's buried in Washington's tomb?
I thought that was a Grant question.
But you know what? It applies to George Washington.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to tell you about this, because I'm going to tell you an amazing story about who is buried in Washington's tomb. You think you know the answer?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you do.
Let's find out.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
You want to talk about T-shirts too?
Well, I do, but first I just want to say this was a great episode, so thank you.
Oh, okay. You're right.
So we did the trivia question for the last episode. We're going to do another one for this episode, and then we will award T-shirts to some winners.
Yeah, we got some great Beyond Mount Rushmore T-shirts, and they're just waiting for you to wear them.
Yes.
And we'll give you a chance to in the coming weeks.
Yes.
All right, you can outro us now.
Okay. This has been Beyond Mount Rushmore, the history you never knew you needed. I'm Jeff Hickcox, and of course our self-proclaimed presidential historian, Stan Nawalaniec.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
See you in 2 weeks.
Check us out on Facebook.
Yep.